Hello my friends, Happy New Year to you all. It's the 1st of January, my first tutorial of 2026. I hope you all had a fantastic New Year's Eve and celebrations and all of that. Wherever you were in the world, I hope it went down very, very well. I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining me again in 2026. This tutorial is just a nice simple tutorial I kind of spotted on my phone in my gallery. I have lots of pictures here, and it's just a nice simple seascape which I wanted to get into detail with you, just show you how it works and the makeup of a little seascape. It's just something small. It's a crashing wave. Let me show you. I've done a few of these in the past, but that's quite nice. I think a tutorial for this would be quite interesting and show you how to create curves in a wave and shadow and the rich kind of turquoise colours. So I thought it would be a nice tutorial just to start 2026, something nice and kind of laid back, and just to help you along with seascapes, colours and shapes, that kind of thing. So let's try it. I have a canvas here, 12 by 16, ready to go. I might put some linseed oil on the canvas. If you don't have linseed oil, you could try some liquid clear, or even just some of your thinners. If you have some turpentine or something like that, just give it a quick rub with some turpentine as well. It just sort of primes the canvas a little bit for you. That's the only reason. I use linseed oil as a sort of a base, just to kind of help the colours move around a bit better, so it's not very, very dry on the canvas. So let's try it and see how we get on. I'm excited to paint this one, my very first tutorial. I was itching to get painting for the past couple of days. I haven't done something now in about a week. I haven't lifted my paintbrushes in about a week. So I'm itching to get going, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited. So please do join me. And if you have just become a member to the channel, thank you very, very much. I hope you're enjoying these tutorials. And here's to a great year ahead. Let's keep having fun with our brushes. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Alright then, here we go. This is my canvas. I put a tiny bit of masking tape just across there, just for the horizon line. I did a very, very quick sketch just of the crashing wave, and there's the photograph. You should see it there somewhere. And these are my colours. I have with me today titanium white, cerulean blue, phthalo blue, Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, a little burnt umber. Might not be needed, but just in case, I have a feeling I might. Some magenta and lamp black. That's it. I'm going to start by giving my sky a very quick rub of some linseed oil. Just the tiniest little amount, okay? The tiniest amount. It's only a small sky anyway. I don't even think we need this, but it will help, I think, just with blending and stuff like that. Let's take a little cerulean blue and some white. I want to mix a nice kind of a thicky white blue and a little touch of phthalo, I think, as well. Let's go across the top with that. Now let's just take a look. Okay, maybe a touch of phthalo blue. I don't want to go too green. I don't want it to be too green, but I do want a kind of a nice, a sort of a warm blue, sort of a kind of a nice ocean blue. So not too much cerulean in this. Then I'll take some white, put some white across the base. Just hold my canvas here. Right across the base with some white. It's still blending with the blue, you see, but it's just a nice light colour. Let's just soften that then, right up. And you can see it's quite wet. Let's just make that nice and soft. There we go. Now we could indicate a couple of clouds in there if you wanted. Let's try a few clouds just to make a little suggestion, yes? I'll take a little bit of the black, mix it in with that kind of a bluey green shade that we have there. Maybe take a touch of burnt umber in there as well, just to make a little shadow. Maybe a touch of magenta, just to give us a kind of a shadowy colour for some clouds. Let's put one or two there, one there, one there. They're going to be very small because they're so far off in the distance, and they're just on the horizon line as well, so they're not going to be too big and fluffy, you know what I mean? So a couple like that. Could even just go across the bottom with a few bits like this. Then I'll clean that brush again, make sure it's nice and dry, go right into some white, and we'll just give a little bit of highlight on some of these clouds. Look, a touch here, touch there, nothing drastic, nothing too kind of fussy or fancy or anything like that. Just a dab of white paint here and there on the clouds, and just dab it along here and there, off in the distance, okay? There we go, another bit there. You can see I'm just being very, very loose with all of this. Just a little dab here, a little dab there, that's all. Really, that's all we need. That's all we need. This, for me now, is just a very, very light suggestion of some cloud way off in the distance, that's all. Just soften one or two of them just very gently with my brush. And there we go. And that's it. That's all I need to do. I'm not worried too much about anything else. Let's remove the masking tape. And we have a lovely clean line. Let's put in all of this blue here, a nice rich blue. Oh yeah, before I go any further, let's take a little bit of linseed oil and cover this with linseed oil. Again, that really helps the paint just kind of move around nice and softly. All the colours will blend together really nice. That's all it's for. It's just to help the paint along. Okay, now some phthalo blue. We're going nice and dark with this now, aren't we? A little bit of magenta, tiny touch of black. Now, because there's no white in this colour is going to be very translucent. Okay, let me show you what I mean by translucent. You'll see the canvas right through it. You see what I mean? It's very thin. So what I tend to do to make this nice and thick is I take some white. Okay, I start with some white like that. Then I'll go into my richer colours. A little bit of phthalo blue, a little bit of black, maybe take a touch of brown. Let's try that. Now you'll see how that covers much, much better. It's just a much richer, deeper colour, and it's much thicker on the brush as well. Let's go across our horizon line, just as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Mine is not straight by any means. It's not perfect, you see that? Now let's just fill this in first. We'll see then. We can always straighten these things later on, can't we? When it's dry, we can put a bit of tape across it or something, just to make it nice and straight. But look, for now it's fine. And then I'm going to just start darkening this bit of phthalo blue, bit of black. The object of this lesson really is to show you about darks against light. So we want a nice rich dark behind this crashing wave. That will really highlight the wave very, very nicely. So I'm just going with phthalo blue, a little bit of black, and because phthalo blue has a kind of a greeny hue to it anyway, it's going to give you this kind of rich, dark, kind of a greeny, bluey, blacky colour. So there's a hint of a kind of a green hue, or let's call it a green undertone. That's probably the correct term for this. It has a green undertone, which I really like. I'll take a touch of cerulean just to kind of perk that up a little bit, just give it a little bit more oomph. Let's put this dark colour. I just picked up, literally, I picked up a bit of black and cerulean, okay? Let's get this nice and dark. I want this dark to make real good impact later on. So I'm planning ahead. The thing with Seascapes is you have to plan ahead with colours. So you know you're going to have a dark background then later on. Now a bit of phthalo blue, I'm going to go up a bit higher with this darker shade, softening it through. I don't have any turpentine on this now, it's just paint. You can see I'm just picking up paint. Let's just get that nice and dark. You know, you can mess around with this until you feel you have the shade that you're happy with, okay? You can kind of mess around with it. Alright, I'm happy enough with this now so far, so I'm going to start putting in my darks. You see the dark lines for the waves. Let's take some phthalo blue, a little cerulean, and some black. Okay, a little bit of that just on the tip of the brush, you see what I mean? Just like so. And let's pick out just a nice dark one coming across here, isn't there? It comes across sort of at an angle, it disappears off. There's one. A little bit more phthalo. And you can kind of mess around with this. I'm just kind of glancing quickly at the photograph and I'm just kind of pulling it down here and there. And it's very important. You see the angle of my brush, the way I'm swinging it. I'm swinging the brush down at a little. I'm flicking it down and out. You see that? That's very important because that gives you the shape of your water turning as it kind of filters down. As it comes down, it's turning like this. That gives you that lovely angle, you see. That's very important. Try and get that angle if you can. It's just a little flick. And I might just do one or two more off in the distance here. Just kind of, let's say, disappearing away into the painting. You can use a little small flat brush for this if you like. It's up to yourself. But you can see already we have a nice kind of bit of a movement going on. Now, a bit more black, a bit more phthalo. I just want to get a little bit sort of deeper and darker with some of these. And bring one or two, kind of swing one or two around here and there. Again, just to add a little bit of depth in the painting. You see what I mean? So here, for example, look, let's just kind of wiggle our brush just slightly here and there. And it's just creating all these different darks coming and going in and out of the water. You see what I mean? And this is not the focal point. The focal point is this crashing wave here, but you know, we want to make this nice as well, don't we? Okay, I'm going to stop at that. I'm going to move to a smaller brush. My smaller brush. Give that a nice dry, make sure it's nice and dry. Let's get a nice light blue. Let's go phthalo blue with white. Maybe a hint of cerulean as well. So a very kind of a bright greeny blue. And I'm going to just kind of go along, even on the top of that you can see there's this kind of a light hitting the top of them in between. And just keep going like this with that colour. Just I'm swinging it around here and there, you see, look. And it's all about the lights and the darks, because these lights will set off. You see how those few highlights set off the darks really nice. They really grab your eyes, don't they? So that's what I'm kind of trying to show you today. Now, phthalo, cerulean blue and a bit of white again. And let's just go down here, pop a little bit here and there. I'm just going in and out of these darks that I put on, just to create a little bit of movement. And clean your brush every couple of seconds, just to get fresh paint. Because when you put your brush on here, you're picking up the dark colours, you see, you're picking them up slightly, so you need to just keep your brush nice and clean. Just rub the tip of your brush on the tissue just to clean it off, and that's all you have to do. Just, you know, let's go very random here now. I'm just kind of letting my brush dance around on the canvas, you see. Leave it dance around. I find also what helps with this is if you don't hold your brush too tight. I'm barely holding the brush, so I'm just letting the brush kind of dance around on my canvas and just tap it here and there. I'm not forcing it, I'm not pushing it, okay? That's the problem with a lot of beginning as well, beginners. They're kind of forcing the brush mark too much. They want to get it too precise. For me, I don't like being too precise with my painting. I like to just let the painting evolve naturally, almost. Now I'll stop at that. I'm going to take my brush. I'm just going to soften first the darks down into this, okay? We want to just soften everything together, but I'm going with these angular pieces first. And then let's just soften away those ones that we did earlier. Just kind of look, mess around with your angles, just bring the brush up and bring it down and just have a bit of fun. That's what it's all about. Painting is supposed to be fun, isn't it? It's not supposed to be stressful or anything like that. It's supposed to be nice and relaxed and enjoying. There we go. Okay, now I'm happy enough with that even as it is. But I might just kind of maybe add a couple of more little dark areas in there, just here and there. So I'll take my, we could go with a large brush, or we could go with maybe a small flat little brush. Look, let's try a small flat one for a change. And let's get some nice dark colours going. Cerulean, Phaylo, a little bit of black. And we could dart a couple of more darks in around here and there. Okay, so you can kind of see what I mean. Just grab some dark colours and just swish them around, up and down, up and down. Have some fun with all of this. Phaylo blue and cerulean on its own as well is a nice kind of a rich colour, isn't it? Let's take some of that, and we're just going to very kind of loosely swish the brush around. That's again just kind of bringing that hint of colour back in, and then maybe go with a few darks. Just really pick out some areas with really dark shades, okay? And we can kind of soften all of these back in again anyway. If we don't like them, by all means, we can just go back and soften them out and start again. But this is a nice little soft way of just creating a little bit of a seascape with some waves off in the distance, nothing too fussy. Now I leave it at that. I think that's absolutely fine. We don't need to go at this anymore, apart from just soften some of them out. That's all. And I do like softening these types of scenes with my fan brush or my blender brush, because that then draws your eye into the main focal point, which is this big wave. So we're going to start that now. Let's kind of have a look around and see now first. So we have a very bright area in here, and it comes down to a dark area, doesn't it? So let's try that first. I'm going to just use a clean brush. I'm just going to clean this flat brush I have, and I'm going to mix a nice bright turquoise. Let's get some cerulean and some Naples yellow. Look at that colour. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Look at that colour. That's just a beautiful colour now, isn't it? Naples yellow, cerulean. On its own even, look. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's bad. I'm going to go with that. Maybe a hint of white. And just put that colour in here first, right in underneath. Okay, there we go. We can go up a little bit, I suppose. It's a little bit higher up, isn't it, on this side? And then we'll continue it over. Now, you can come all the way down with this if you like. I'm just picking up a bit more cerulean blue, just with my brush. I'm going to soften it down just a little bit as it gets a bit darker. Now, this is very important, this part of the painting, okay? You have to swing your brush up like this. You have to follow the curve of the wave coming down, you see? That's very important, because already you can begin to see the wave starting to kind of curve downwards, can't you? Now, when we have that, we're just going to use the same brush and go into some, let's say, cerulean with a little touch of magenta. And that will give us a nice, warm colour. Now, I'm going to go up about halfway and leave it disappear off. Look, I'm flicking it up with my brush, and I'm just allowing it to just kind of disappear. You see? Back and forward all the time. Nice curves, you see? And it's slowly beginning to take shape. We can then go darker. So now we can go into some phthalo blue, maybe a touch of magenta. The magenta just gives you that beautiful warm colour, and maybe a touch of Naples yellow. Now maybe, actually as well, a bit of cerulean. So we're getting a nice mix of warm and cool, you see that? I'm just going darker and darker and darker before I go for the final dark, which will be a kind of a blacky blue, okay? Now, let's go into the black. Black, cerulean blue. I think that's all we need for this black and cerulean blue. Maybe a touch of cadmium yellow, and that will green the colour ever so slightly. You see what I mean? That hint of cadmium yellow, it really does just help give you that kind of a deep greeny blacky sort of a colour, which is what we need. Now, and then we'll come down, let that soften away, okay? Leave that soften away. I'm taking more cadmium yellow, so it's going into more of a dark green. And I'm going to just come along nice and gently. Now I don't want to overpower this too much. A bit more yellow. Remember, just following the curve of the wave all the time. Now I'm going to take cadmium yellow with some cerulean. Nice and thick now on its own, okay? And I want to just come along, pop some of that rich green colour. Now you'll notice as well, my canvas is not as tall as the photograph, so I've had to kind of compress it slightly, if you know what I mean. It'll make sense to you later. I had to compress the photograph just kind of slightly to make it work on my canvas. So I'll have to kind of maybe sort of shrink things down slightly in a moment. So I'm going to just kind of stop here now with the darks, right? I'll show you now. I'm going to stop here with those, maybe get a bit of phthalo blue in there. And I'm going to flatten them out, bring them across, okay? I'm then going to take my soft blender brush and I'm going to just very gently, now where is my other blender brush gone? I had a nicer one here just a moment ago. I don't know where, oh it's over here. And I'm just going to very kind of gently flick those up, soften them together. You see the way I'm turning that brush now, I'm turning it upwards. Okay, let's go down and just put a kind of a nice, a basic sort of a bluish shade. Let's get some cerulean blue, some white, a little touch of Naples yellow. I'm just going to kind of come along. This is supposed to be the front where the waves break. We can come down a bit, I suppose, with them. Take a bit of phthalo blue, a bit of white, a bit of Naples yellow. I'm just going to kind of push that back ever so slightly, that big crashing wave, okay? I just want to push it back very slightly. Take a bit of cadmium yellow in there, show a bit of a greeny colour coming into play. Okay, now it's starting to sit down a bit, isn't it? The next thing I want to do is I just want to add a very rich bright right in there. So I'm going to clean this small medium brush, this kind of flat medium brush. Just going to dry that well. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, some white. And I'm going to come in here and just, I want to give this a hint of brightness. You see that? Just a little hint of brightness where the sun is kind of coming through. Like so. Now, you could go as, you know, make this as much as yellow or as white as you like. I would just be careful with some of the colours. I don't want to go overboard with putting colours onto this, because sometimes when you keep going at these things, you can end up making them worse. And you can make them, you know, they can look worse, you know, if you kind of go at them a bit too much. So you need to be careful, because you might find yourself having to go back over the whole thing again. That's what I find, especially with Seascapes. You need to be careful in that sense. A little bit of phthalo blue just to bring a bit more blue into it. And again, I'll soften that back down then, using the clean side of my brush. See, sometimes you can make something worse. Sometimes. I think we'll stop at that for a moment now, and we'll start putting in some of these lovely sort of deep ripples, okay? I'm going to go for a kind of an off-white. I'm going to take a bit of white, maybe a bit of phthalo blue, and it just basically needs to be lighter than what's there, okay? So if we go like this, and you see how these are just very random. So what I do is I just basically pretend that I'm painting lots of different sort of snakes. Let's pretend we're just painting lots of snakes and all that kind of thing. You see, lots of wiggles. In fact, it's even like branches on a tree, I suppose you could say. It's just very random. Take a bit more blue. And you're just very kind of loosely creating the foamy sort of stuff that, you know, that foamy stuff that you see. That's what you're trying to do. Already you can see it's kind of beginning to come to life a little bit, isn't it? Now, I'm going to take a bit more white, and as it comes over here, I'm going to kind of hit it with some sunlight. Let me clean my brush, take a little Naples yellow, and lots of white, with lots of thinners, okay? You need to be very, very thin with this, but Naples yellow especially. And that will give us a nice kind of a bright sunlit piece there, you see that? You see how that really kind of catches your eye. So that's what I'm trying to achieve with this painting. I just wanted certain parts to catch the light so it catches your eyes. And you can see now that really, those two lights, it really catches your eye, doesn't it? And that's what I love about painting, you know. Sometimes it can just work out, other times it may not. But I find, especially with painting, you learn so much along the way. It's just brilliant. Because even though I'm painting this now, I'm still learning a few little bits. I'm actually still learning as I go here, painting with you. So we're learning together, my friends. We are all learning together. So let's just keep going now with these and putting these very random sort of shapes in with the brush. Just go have some fun. Just remember, kind of keep the lights light and keep your darker ones dark. So for instance, if I take some phthalo blue and white, if I put some of them in here, inside the dark area that looks like it's a white part, but it's actually a dark blue. You can see it's a dark blue on my palette. But when you put them into the dark areas, they start looking brighter, don't they? And the same for the bright whites. So if I just get a smaller brush here now for a moment, bear with me. So if I take a smaller, it's a more firmer round brush, if I just take pure white, okay? And I could just have a bit of fun with this. And just put in lots of these very thick impasto, let's say. You see how I'm just kind of, I'm allowing the brush to just let thick white paint on the canvas. So I'm not kind of being very, very careful with all of this. I'm just allowing the brush to deposit that thick white paint here and there. And I'm just trying to make it look very random, as if there's loads of things going on. Over here, we can do that, and then over on that side particularly, we could create a little bit of a wave sort of popping down like that. Let's put a bit of Naples yellow in there. I'll take a bit of blue, touch of magenta perhaps, put a little bit of that in across there. I do like just to be careful not to overdo these. I really do. I don't want to have a situation where it just becomes very, very messy. I'm going to just pop a little bit of chunky white top on that. So it could just tell us that it's another little bit of a wave starting to crash over. Just there. Now this side we have to get that done, don't we? That's very important. That's a wave crashing, and we've all the white spray to do as well. Before I go any further, I want to just really lighten the center of this in here. I really want to go nice and bright and highlight that with some sunlight almost. Okay. Then we have a nice crisp dark line coming around it, don't we? So it's basically looking at your sections. So, you know, when I'm looking at this wave, I see a very dark bluey line going right around here, don't we? So let's just take a very rich dark blue, some phthalo blue, bit of magenta, and let's just go like this. Look, I'm going to dab it very randomly and leave it fizzle out. Okay, and do the same right around, and then coming down like this. You could take some cadmium yellow in that, make it a bit more greeny if you want, and it comes down like this. I'm just dabbing with my brush now in a very random kind of a manner. Then into this I'll take a bit of white, maybe a bit more cadmium yellow, and I'm going to swing this one over to give this some movement. And I'll show you in a moment then what we're going to do with this. Okay, so we have our dark line going around the wave, all right. From that then we have our white kind of spray sort of coming off of that, don't we? And the trick with this is to kind of bring the white in and merge it with that dark line very slightly by dabbing ever so gently. You see what I mean? You see how I'm just merging the white into that. But that's only the beginning. Okay? You can see I'm just starting to lighten it. What I want to do next, what I've been waiting to do, is to take a fan brush, and let me get a fan brush here now. Let me get a nice little small fan brush. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to drag white over this. So let's just go right into some white. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of blue on this or whatever, it doesn't matter. And let's just drag. Just like that. You see there, already we have a little wave turning over, don't we? Just that simple. Again, take another bit of white, and we can go slightly stronger in places. We can go like this, bring it a bit more over. So you can do so much with your little fan brush. I'm going to come down and I'm going to just make that stop just over here. I'm just going to wiggle it around, create a bit of mist. Okay, just like so. And what I'm going to do then is, this is all about, again, light against darks. I'm going to take more dark paint, so phthalo blue, bit of magenta, a little bit of black. I'm going to go in under here, and I'm going to just start putting that dark paint in underneath that. Just to show that this is all kind of in shadow over here. Just from that wave, okay? See, that little bit of darkness? That just really brings things to life, doesn't it? Let's get a bit of phthalo blue, and I'm going to pop a little bit of phthalo blue in, just at the bottom of this. And then I'll take a little bit of black, pop a little bit of black in with the corner of my brush, swing it around. So it's almost sort of merging downwards, you see. Now let's finish the splash up around here. Let's start having some fun with the splash. Let's get some white, and I might take a touch of pink. The tiniest touch of pink, I think, will make a big difference. And I'm going to simply just start creating some shape with all of this. Now I need more magenta, more white. I think a light pink rather than a white might have a nicer effect. I think it might. Let's go along and just create this wonderful splash coming right over and down this way. Just very, very loosely. Around in circles. That's what I tend to do when I'm painting splash like this. I just go around in circles. I soften it outwards, like so. And then just pop one or two little dabs like that. So we're coming to the stage where we start putting on a very bright highlights. Let's take some Naples yellow and some white, and that will really give us our bright spots. You see that? Let's try it again. Naples yellow, plenty of white. Doesn't matter if you end up with kind of slightly greeny tones now with all of this, it's fine. Okay, let's get some of that and just leave it dance around. And you can always, of course, you can always use your palette knife as well. If you like using your palette knife for this type of thing, you can. Just going to bring a few bits around like that. And we could start bringing a few down here onto the sand. So the sand is very important here. We need to get the sand in as well, just to help us, just to show that it is kind of landing on the beach. That's very important. But let's just kind of have some fun now with this. Let's try a palette knife. Come on. Let's take a palette knife, a bit of white, and let's just have some fun with all of this. Come on, isn't this what it's all about? Painting. It's about having some fun. So let's do that. Come on. Grab your palette knife and just go to town. Don't be shy. And just come over here and just give it a couple of very bright dabs of white. And then I'm going to take my fine pointy brush with some white, and I'm going to come down, just give this a little bit of definition here, and a little bit over here as well, a little bit of light, like that. Let's put in our sand, and we'll know that we can kind of look at it better then, can't we? We can increase the splash if we want. I might increase the splash and make it a bit higher. I'm not sure. It just doesn't seem high enough for me. I might make it a bit higher and more volume. So let's just put in the sand first. I'm going to take Naples yellow, a little bit of burnt umber, and a bit of white. Maybe a touch of magenta as well. Okay, that's fine. That'll do me. There's a little bit of green in there as well off the turquoise, but it's absolutely fine. Let's just pop in the sand first. And then we'll do this lovely shape that we have where the splash comes down, and you see them lovely shadows that we have. So let's just put the sand in first. And I'll show you that then. I'll show you how to do these, how I would do these. As you know, there's a lot of different ways of doing these. Different people have different ways, don't they? This is how I do mine. So, I'll take a small round brush. I'm going to take a very dark bluey black. Some phthalo blue, a little bit of black, and a touch of magenta, let's say. So, what I do is, looking at the photograph, I see there's a nice dark one. It starts here, doesn't it? Comes around like that. And then it comes around again like that. And it gets thinner and disappears. Okay? Let's continue it on over here. It gets thinner again, doesn't it? We'll put another one here. Then go into a very small pointy brush. Take some black. Plenty of watery black. Go down the bottom of this, follow that around, and continue that off. Here and there. Do the same over here. Let that, it's kind of a hit and miss as well, you see what I mean? Now on top of that, we also have a bit of a shadow, don't we, on the sand. So, you want to take a dark brown. Let's get a dark brown. Let's take some brown and a hint of black. And we have a shadow on the sand, don't we? So let's just bring the shadow out like this. Swing it around, back in, and it comes out again. And these have to sort of merge together very slightly, okay? And there we go. Now, you can with your finger just soften. I am going to soften that brown into the sand. Then we have our thick white foam going around that, don't we? Let's take this round brush, grab some white, and let's just put a thick line of foam around that. Okay? Continue this on over here. Give it a bit of a wiggle now as well, don't be shy. Just grab plenty of white. And we want this white to kind of really be nice and thick so it disappears back off into the water. Do you understand? So let's kind of just put plenty on and we'll soften it backwards then, you see. We'll soften it back into all of this, creating little snakes, as we call them, creating these little snakes as they disappear. And you might need to leave this dry a little bit, okay, if this is a little bit difficult for you. But, you know, you can use a palette knife as well. Palette knife will do just fine as well for all of this. Now, I think that, even in itself, is absolutely fine. But what I would like to do is take some of that dark blue, okay? And I'm going to just kind of soften the dark blue up into some of that white here and there, look. Create that sort of mushy effect. Okay? Just a little bit of a mushy effect there, that's all. Then I'm going to take, again, some black with my very pointy detail brush, and I'm going to go back in and just sit those down. A little bit of black. Now, I am quite happy with all of that, I'll be honest. I think that's absolutely fine. We don't have to you know, we don't have to go absolutely crazy with all of this, but you can, if you like, just add an extra couple of details in. I was saying I might add more splashing as well, and I think I will. I think there's not enough splash on that. For me, I don't think there's enough there. I think there needs to be a bit more splash in this. So I might try my fan brush. Let's take a clean fan brush and let's take some white. Touch of Naples yellow. I think, I don't know, just it looks to me like it's just not high enough to splash on this. It looks like it needs to be a little bit higher. Especially over here. I think it needs to be that bit more brighter. Maybe just in the middle, you go up like that. Maybe that's the secret. Something like that. I think I'll leave this well alone, my friends. Now, I am happy with this. Very, very happy. I will possibly just put a little seagull, just for a bit of perspective. I put a little seagull up on the top here, yes? Like so. Now, I did it the wrong way around. It should be white, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Put a bit of white here, a bit of white there. There we go. How does that look, my friends? Again, you can kind of add more little details into this. I was just being very loose and very quick with all of this. But by all means, you can kind of add your own little details into all of this. For instance, look, I'm going to add a rich greeny colour, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with a bit of blue, and I'm going to just put a little bit of a green in here and there. See, these are things you can do in your own time. Just if you feel you want a splash of colour somewhere in there, add a little bit of green. You see, just a touch. That little touch of green there now made all the difference. And I think I'll just leave well alone, because I always worry that if I keep going at something, I'm going to ruin it or spoil it. So just be careful not to overdo. So I'm just putting a little bit of darkness just along the centre as well, and soften it across. Just be careful not to overdo it. That's what I would say. My friends, I am finished. I don't think there's much need to continue on with all of this. I think this looks absolutely fine. As a quick little demonstration of a seascape for you. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you've learned a little bit. And just try and have a bit of fun with it, you know. Don't take it all too seriously. It's just a bit of fun, and it's just paint. We're here to express ourselves on our canvases and have a bit of fun while doing it, and not to be too stressed out. Okay? I'll be back very soon with another tutorial. Thank you so much for watching this video, if you've watched it. If you haven't, please do watch it, because it's very interesting to see something coming together like this, I think. I'll see you very soon, my friends. Thank you. Happy New Year, and have a great day. I'll see you all very soon. God bless.